Her voice trembled when she said it. "You can't be here, sir. This is HOA property now." The air smelled like wet concrete and arrogance. Behind her, 12 shiny new buildings stretched across the horizon, my land. Every inch of it, I looked down at the dirt beneath my boots, the same dirt my father once said would pay for my children's future. Now, it was paved over with the HOA's luxury plaza. They thought I'd walk away quietly. They were wrong, because that dirt remembers who it belongs to. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "You might want to tell your boss," I said, "that his empire's built on borrowed ground." She blinked. "Excuse me, sir." But I was already walking away, boots cutting through the dust that used to be my inheritance. And as the wind howled through half-finished steel, I realized that moment wasn't the end. That was the start of their downfall. 3 months earlier, it was different. The land was quiet. The kind of quiet that hums when something's alive. Wind through pine trees, the sound of gravel under tires. Birds nesting in the fences my dad built with his own hands, my father used to say. Land doesn't talk, but it remembers who cares for it. Right. That stuck with me. Every time I walked those acres, I could almost hear it breathing. He bought that land in the 70s, when he could barely afford a pickup truck. When he passed, it came to me 20 acres just outside town. Not worth much to most people, but to me, it was everything. Developers called. Realtors emailed. HOA reps promised growth and opportunity. I told them all the same thing, not for sale. First they were polite. Then they started acting like the land already belonged to them. Letters came. Flyers. Join our new business hub. Fake smiles. Fake promises. And then the trucks came. The morning I saw the first bulldozer, I thought it was a mistake. They were parked right at my fence, engines idling, laughter echoing like they were on a playground. "Hey," I yelled, "you're on private property." One of them waved me off. "We got clearance from the HOA. That word again, HOA. The name sounded harmless. But I'd learned soon enough, that's where the poison lived. Silver Creek Association. They managed. Shiny new thing, within 5 miles, and apparently, I thought that gave them the right to. Managed me too. The next day, I walked into their office. Polished floors, glass walls, the kind of silence that smells like expensive coffee, and fake sincerity. A receptionist smiled at me like I was lost. "I need to talk to whoever approved construction on my land." She blinked. "Do you have an appointment? Do I need one to stop a crime?" That wiped the smile off. Minutes later, I met the man himself. Richard Hale, HOA, president. Silver hair, silver tongue, heart made of rust. "Mr. Turner," he said smoothly, "there's been some confusion. Our zoning map shows that land is part of our expansion zone." "Expansion zone?" I asked. He smiled like a fox. "Annexed last quarter. City approved it." I leaned forward. "You can't annex private land without notice." He sighed, like he was the one being wronged. "These things happen in city planning. You're welcome to dispute it, but I should warn you, construction's already underway." That word already hit me like a slap. He wasn't sorry. He was smug. Like the land was a game, and he'd already won. That night, I sat on my porch, staring at the horizon. I could hear machines working miles away, my land screaming under steel. For a moment, I felt small, powerless. But then I heard my father's voice in the wind. "Patience, son. Let them hang themselves first." That's when it clicked. I didn't need to stop them. I needed to let them bury themselves in their own arrogance, so I waited. I watched them work. Every truck. Every concrete pour. Every brick laid on stolen ground. And I documented everything. Photos, videos, drones. Every inch of that progress became my evidence. One night, I was scrolling through zoning documents, 40 pages of bureaucratic nonsense, when I found it. Buried on page 9, a single line in gray text, "Boundary adjustment submitted pending verification." Pending verification? Not approved. Not final. They'd built an empire on a maybe. That meant, legally, everything they'd built was unauthorized. I grinned in the dark. They'd just handed me the rope. Weeks passed. I let them keep building. One by one, the structures rose hollow, shiny, empty. They even paved over the oak stump where my dad carved our initials. That one hurt. That's when I stopped watching and started recording. Every call, every permit, every forged signature. And that's when I found the real monster hiding behind the curtain. The city. Someone had been paid off. A signature changed. A date erased. They turned my land into a buffer zone. It's unclaimed, invisible. They didn't just steal from me. They rewrote the map to erase me. The day I confronted them, the sky was gray. Rain heavy, air thick. 3 workers were drilling holes into my gatepost, setting up a new sign. Silver Creek Business Center opening soon. "Hey," I called out. "You sure that's the right spot?" One of them shrugged. "That's what the HOA told us." Then I heard it, the purr of a black SUV. Richard Hale. He stepped out, spotless as ever, umbrella in hand. "Mr. Turner," he said. "I thought we discussed this." I said. "You're trespassing." He smirked. "Bold claim, considering this is HOA property." I stared at him. "Keep your umbrella handy, Richard. Storm's coming," he chuckled. "Is that a threat?" "No," I said. "A promise." He waved his hand. "Keep working, gentlemen." I stood there, soaked to the bone, watching them drill through my father's land. But what he didn't know was that my dash cam was running. Audio clear, time-stamped. That day. The rain wasn't washing anything away. It was recording everything. By month 3, they finished the Plaza. The news called it a beacon of community growth. It's a funny, community built on theft. Grand opening. Red ribbons. Cameras. Richard stood center stage, grinning beside the mayor. I stood in the crowd, hat low, phone recording. He said, "This land represents opportunity." I almost laughed. He wasn't wrong. It did, just not for him after that. Made my move. Not with protests or signs. Quietly, calmly. County assessor's office. The clerk looked tired but kind. I slid my folder across the counter. "Can you check the ownership on this parcel?" She flipped through page after page, her brow tightening. Finally, she looked up. "Mr. Turner, this deed is still active. Your land was never legally annexed." I felt the air leave my chest. "Can you put that in writing?" She nodded. "You'll have it in a week." When I walked outside, the sun hit different. For the first time in months, I felt like the land recognized me again. A week later, I had it stamped, sealed, undeniable. Everything they built was mine. Every brick, every storefront, every dollar earned mine, and I knew exactly what to do. Saturday morning. The plaza was alive. Families shopping, fountains running, music playing. I parked near the edge. Envelope in hand. Richard spotted me first. "Mr. Turner," he said, voice tight. "You can't be here." I smiled. "That's where you're wrong." I handed him the letter. "County verification." "Read it." He scanned the page, lips moving. Then his face drained. This can't be right." "Oh, it's right," I said. "Every word, every inch. You built your empire on my dirt. People were watching now. Cameras out." His voice cracked. "You'll regret this." I leaned in. "No, Richard. You will." I turned and walked away as the crowd murmured, the truth spreading like wildfire. Behind me, his perfect plaza started crumbling, not the walls, but the illusion. That day I didn't feel victorious. Just steady, like the land was breathing again, exhaling after holding its breath too long. I went home. I stood at the edge of my property and pressed my palm into the dirt. It felt warm, alive, forgiving, and I could almost hear my father whisper, "See, son, the land remembers." But as much as I wanted to believe it was over, I knew better. People like Richard don't go quietly. And this HOA, they were just getting started, so I stayed ready. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying them. It's about reminding them some ground can't be stolen. It just waits for the right moment to take itself back. The morning I decided to end it all began the same way it always had, too quiet. The sky was the color of steel, and the air carried that weight right before a storm. You ever feel the world hold its breath before something breaks? That was me. Standing where gravel met new asphalt, watching strangers pave their future over my past. Hard hats glinting. Clipboards shuffling. Laughter echoing where my father once plowed fields. I didn't shout. I didn't move. One of the foremen saw me and looked away fast. They all knew who I was. The man whose land they'd built their empire on? Her voice trembled when she said it once. "You can't be here, sir. This is HOA property now." The air smelled like wet concrete and arrogance. Behind her, 12 shiny new buildings stretched across the horizon. My land, every inch of it. They thought I'd walk away quietly. They were wrong. But you can't fight fire while it's burning. You wait, you let it burn itself out. So, for weeks, I stayed quiet. Let them think I'd given up. Let them get comfortable. That's the trick about people like Marla, the HOA president. Give them silence, and they mistake it for surrender. Every morning. Her white SUV would roll up, clipboard in hand, sunglasses too big for her face. She'd watch her luxury plaza grow like a queen, admiring her kingdom. And every time I saw that smug smile, my father's voice whispered in my head. Land remembers who it belongs to. He started posting signs. Future site of Lakeside Plaza, luxury offices and retail. They nailed one right into the soil where my dad's old oak tree stood. That day, my hands shook so hard, I nearly ripped it down. But I didn't, because sometimes the most powerful move is the one you don't make. One evening, I caught her giving a tour, investors trailing behind like puppies. This land was a mess, she bragged. Now it's ours. Prime location, exclusive rights. I stood in the shadows, tasting dust and rage. She didn't even know she was performing on my stage. That night I barely slept. I kept hearing her words. It's ours. By morning, I'd made up my mind. The county office smelled like paper and stale coffee. The clerk barely looked up when I walked in. You again? Said. I already told you the land's under the HOA's jurisdiction. I didn't argue. I just slid a folded paper across the counter. Check again, he frowned. Typed something. Then he stopped. His face drained like he'd seen a ghost. This is a different deed. I leaned in. It's the original. Filed before your system went digital. You've been looking at zoning copies, not ownership transfers. His throat bobbed. You might want to talk to legal. Oh, I smiled. I will. That night, I called Carter, my dad's old lawyer. He'd been retired for years, but when I told him what they'd done, I could hear the fire come back in his voice. 12 buildings? He asked. 12, I said. He paused, then chuckled. Don't stop them. Let them finish. It sounded insane at first, but the longer I thought about it, the more it made sense. Let them pour their money, their pride, their greed, right into the ground that wasn't theirs. Every brick, every inch of pavement, every contract, all of it would become my evidence. So I waited. Weeks turned into months. The plaza rose, glass and steel gleaming under the sun. People drove by, admiring what they thought was progress. They didn't see the rot beneath it. Sometimes I'd walk by at dusk, pretending to be just another passerby. Kids laughed in the distance. Workers packed up their tools. Marla stood at the fountain, admiring the reflection of her legacy. And every time, I whispered to myself, keep building. Then one afternoon, they put up the banner. Grand opening Saturday. Perfect. I didn't sleep that night. I walked the property line until sunrise, boots kicking up dust over buried memories. I thought of my dad, his hands, his laugh, the way he'd pat the earth and say, this land feeds us. Protect it. I promised him I would. When Saturday came, it felt like a festival. Music, food, cameras. Marla stood center stage, microphone in hand, dressed like success itself. This plaza, she declared, is proof that our HOA builds a better future. Together, applause thundered. Then I stepped forward. Excuse me, I said, loud enough to hush 100 voices. Every head turned. Cameras swiveled. Marla blinked, irritated. Sir, this is private, I know. I cut her off. Private property? That's exactly what I came to talk about. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the folder. Thick, sealed, undeniable. This land, I said, belongs to me. And it always has. It's for a heartbeat, nothing. Then murmurs. Confusion. The county inspector, poor guy, just there for ribbon cutting, took the folder. He flipped through the pages, eyes widening. Finally he looked up. He's right, he said quietly. This deed predates the HOA by nearly 20 years. Silence. Then the sound of Marla's breath catching. That can't be, she whispered. But it was. The crowd fell still. Even the fountain's water seemed to pause midair. That was my quiet victory. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just stood there, calm as everything she built crumbled around her. Within days, chaos erupted. News crews, lawsuits, tenants panicking. The HOA froze all operations. Every lease voided overnight. Marla tried to twist the story, clerical misunderstanding, she said. But the county dug deep. And what they found didn't just destroy her project, it shattered her reputation. 2 weeks later, the plaza was empty. 12 buildings hollow, echoing monuments to arrogance. I walked through one evening. The wind whistled through broken glass doors. The smell of dust and paint still hung in the air. I ran my fingers along the cold walls and whispered, "You're home now." When I reached the fountain, I pulled a small jar of soil from my pocket, the same dirt from my father's field. I poured it into the water. The ripples spread slow and wide, like peace itself settling in. Later, Carter smiled when I told him. "You did it," he said. "No," I replied. "We did." My dad would have been proud. At least the buildings to local folks. No HOA fees, no nonsense. People who worked hard, just like my family did. Marla called once, voice broken, begging to make amends. I told her softly, "You built your empire on someone else's foundation. I just reminded you whose name was on it." Then I hung up. Now sometimes at night, I drive past the plaza, or what they call it now, Deed's End. The lights shimmer across the asphalt, and I can almost hear my dad again. Land remembers who it belongs to. He was right. Would you have waited 6 months? Would you have let them finish just to show them the truth? If you've ever stood your ground against something unfair, share this story. Subscribe, more true stories are coming, because justice doesn't shout. It waits, and when it finally speaks, it's louder than any hammer they ever swung.